I want to thank everyone for joining us today on Fit as a Fiddle Plus. We're always talking about health and wellness. And so I want to mention a little bit about myself. I do have the Kathy Benner International Academy, and there is a health and wealth lane within the academy, and you can listen to all of our replays. I don't have a lot of course material on that particular lane yet. That is up and coming. I most recently have published my third book, which is called Biohacking Entrepreneur. Yes, thank you.
Yay!
Thank you. And it is all about my health journey for the last year and a half. And actually, folks, I'm down 70 pounds.
Oh,
70.
wow,
Oh, yes.
Kathy.
Everybody goes, how much have you lost? And I always like to say an entire third grader. So imagine
Wow.
carrying around a third grader all day.
Oh
Wow.
my
That's
goodness.
Anyway,
wonderful.
for me, it was about the health, and the weight loss was more for the health than
Yeah.
for the looks. As a matter of fact, there's a
Mhm.
lot of challenges that come with losing
Mm-hmm.
that amount of weight,
Yeah.
because you get a lot of saggy skin and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. But again, the biohacking and the reason that I was invited to participate in that collaborative book effort was because I use several biohacks, such as like dry brushing my skin, to stimulate blood flow, and doing intermittent fasting, which helped with my insulin production. And so all of the above. So, but the call today is not about me, but I do have a very fond of the health and wellness lane, because I am a firm believer. I'm a passive income coach, as you can see here in my little Hollywood square. But what good is the passive income if you spend all the money trying to buy your health back? So for me, I truly believe that health comes before wealth. You have to definitely, get it on your list. So many people say, well, someday when I have more time, I'll pay more attention to my health. Well, we're not always guaranteed that time. So I encourage you to get it onto your list today, even if it's in small baby steps. Do something good for your health today. So, and sometimes it's what you don't do, you know? So maybe don't eat that piece of chocolate cake after dinner, or or maybe don't eat all the bad fried foods or all the fast foods, or all that stuff that we know, in our heart of hearts are not good for us. But it's
Mm-hmm.
so easy and convenient. And to be honest, if you're on a budget, some of it is a whole lot cheaper. It costs more to eat better. So, but you know what? You're worth it. So I encourage you to get it on your list. So that is about me. You can check me out at kathybenner.com. I put it over in the chat for everyone. It'll also be in the description of the replay for those of you that are listening later. You can tap in to kathybenner.com. I want to now introduce Rita. And Rita, while I'm thinking about it, I am going to make you my co-host. And I want Rita to tell us a little bit about what she brings to the table and what it is that she's doing. Rita.
All right, everybody, glad to have you here and glad to be with you. I'm Rita Brewer. I've been a clinically practicing physician assistant, physician associate for 33 years, and very, very frustrated with the conventional medical model that we're practicing in and the lack of preventative health care that we are able to provide in the way that people really need it. So I've stepped outside of the medical model to focus on coaching, because this gives me a better opportunity to really help people at a much deeper level, at the level that they deserve, and that they want to really have sustainable health transformation. So I'm also a functional medicine practitioner, but my favorite niche that I love to work on is metabolic health. So I coach people to help them reverse their type 2 diabetes, cholesterol issues, blood pressure issues, obesity, all that stuff, because at least 85% of all the chronic diseases in America are all lifestyle related that people do not have to be suffering from. So, yeah, I have to work outside a medical model to really make progress that way. So that is my passion and mission. So I love doing that. And I'm excited to have our guest with us today, Dr. Tomeka Day, who I think has a pretty similar story. So let's share her bio, and then we'll let her share that story about her. So you have her bio, Kathy, right?
I do. I do.
Right.
Thank you so much. So those of you that are listening, You can see why Rita is my co-host, my co-mod. She brings a lot of background and expertise to the table, and I just appreciate her so much. And even when I got all of my numbers in, she kind of looked at them for me and kind of gave me some advice on how to make my health even better. So definitely get it on the list. So Dr. Tomeka, gosh, I'm so excited to have you on. Dr. Tomeka Day, MD, was the overworked career woman, wife, and mom who struggled to find balance in her life. Her family ate mostly fast food. Yeah, I was talking about that. And their health suffered as a result. When told by others to accept things as they were, she resisted this popular belief, listened to the voice within, and proceeded down a different path. Her vision for a balanced and healthy life was the road less traveled. Boy, oh boy, I can attest to that. Becoming a certified institute for integrative nutritional health coach was instrumental in her obtaining balance and becoming healthier. Because of this, she wanted to help other busy career women, moms, and their children become healthy through nutrition and lifestyle changes. And therefore, she started Flourish Health Coaching, LLC. So, wow, 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 wow. That's just a brief background. Tell us a little bit about your background and what brought you to this point.
Right. I love
Yeah,
how
thank
we're medical professionals with the credentials, but we changed to become coaches instead.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, Rita. And what you were saying, I was like, "Ah, yep, yep. Sounds very familiar." But thank you all for having me on. It's a pleasure. And I love talking about health and wellness. As you read part of my bio, from a little girl, I always dreamed of becoming a doctor because my only brother was critically ill. So that brought me the awareness of the medical field and the amazing things that is done in it, right? You save lives. So as a little girl, I was like, oh, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to help people when they're really sick to get healthy, to become better. And that was my goal, lifelong goal. And thank God I achieved that goal and became a physician. And when I started working full time as a pediatrician, my husband and I, who's also in medicine, we started having children. And, if you're a mom, it takes a lot of time, energy, effort, right? It's no longer just about you and your rest and sleep and everything. You got this little person that you need to nurture and care for and spend all your time and energy helping, to be a great person in life. So we started having kids, and the dynamic changed for me because now I'm trying to juggle being a wife, being a mom, as well as working full time in pediatric medicine. And it's pediatric medicine is pretty demanding.
Yes.
Yes. So from, being in clinic for 8 to 10 hours to going to the hospital to see babies when they were born or hospitalized to taking call, being, called at 2 o'clock in the morning about someone that is, you know, ill or something is going on and I needed to wake up and evaluate it. Over time that started to take a toll on my own health and my body, because in residency when it was just me, even though I was working these long hours, I would when I was off, I was able to sleep, right? And so that kind of helped to balance things. But once we started having a family, now when I got home and was really tired, my baby didn't care. Like if
That's
they were
right.
hungry, yeah. If they
Play
had
with me, mommy.
right. Like I'm not sleeping well tonight. So now I'm waking up 2, 3, 4 times a night, so that's when it really started to set in. And you know, all of the fast food eating, because time is limited now. I didn't have time to be, to cook multiple home cooked meals and, energy drinks or caffeinated drinks, right? Mountain Dew, sodas, things like that, because I needed the energy to keep going because I wasn't getting 8 hours of sleep a night, more like 4 if it
Oh,
was a
wow.
good night. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. I wasn't working out, just trying to make it all work. And my own health started to decline. And I remember praying to God and saying, like, I cannot live like this.
That's
This
right.
it's not just I'm in training for 2 years, and I
Right.
can kind of suffer through for 2 years,
Right,
right?
right.
This
Like
is like
residency, your life, the rest
yes,
of your life.
yes,
Yeah. And then
yes.
you had 3 kids, right?
Yes, we have
Yeah.
3
Yes.
kids. Yes,
Yeah.
and at that time, I don't think Julian wasn't born at that time when this started happening. But I just was like, I can't. This is not working. Something has to change. And so, like when you learn about all the diseases and medications, and when if you're diagnosed with this can develop and that can develop. So I knew all those things, and I was like, God, I do not want that same model for me that I see with a lot of patients, 10, 12 different medications. And so that's when I really was searching for something different, right? Something like
Well, let me ask you this. Now, were you starting to have a family while you were still in residency, or were you actually out practicing before you started to have a family?
right. So I became pregnant my last year of residency with our first child. So I
Okay.
delivered, right. I delivered during my first year of practicing. So yeah,
Okay.
so that's when
Okay. So
all of
now
this
you're
was,
actually in a practice, you're eating
yes,
fast food, you're not
yes.
sleeping, you're trying to take care of babies.
Right, right. Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay.
Mhm.
Yes. Yes, and I hadn't thought about all of that dynamics. I didn't figure out how to make all that come together. So but my health suffered, in the midst of all of that. And God answered my prayer because I found the integrative Institute for Integrative Nutritional Health Coaching program, which was online. And so I did this program, and in it, it really focused on nutrition, like what
Hmm.
you eat, like whole foods, whole grains, the amount of water you drink, being spending time refueling, from meditation to exercise to sleep,
Mhm.
just all the things that
Right.
we learn some of it growing up, right?
Right.
But as when we become adults and work in our careers, sometimes a lot of that it's like, oh, I'll
Mhm.
sleep. People say I'll sleep when I'm dead, right?
Right.
But our body, but
Right.
our
I've heard that
body,
before. Yes.
Yes,
yes,
yes, lots
people,
of people.
yes, but
But
our
the
body
sad thing
needs sleep.
And the
Yeah,
sad thing too is that you're already a doctor. You've already
yes,
spent how many
yes,
years in training, medical, undergrad, medical school,
yes,
residency, in their practice,
yes.
and now we don't even have the right tools that we need and that we want to be able to help people. So you had to go
Yes,
on for another training program for the health coaching because,
yes,
and so did I in functional medicine because we learned nothing about nutrition, like, one day or a few hours of our training, and that's it, right?
yes,
So
yes. It.
that's
And
what's so wrong with our system.
yes, I
It
would be
should be taught.
embarrassed to say that in the beginning, I was embarrassed to say that I didn't know that because it seemed
Yeah,
very
we
counterintuitive. Like I spent all those years
right.
studying medicine, and I couldn't even really tell you the difference between whole grains and processed foods.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And
let me ask you this, Dr. Tomeka. How long were you actually in the practice, taking care of the babies when you're off, working with all of these patients? How long did you do that? Give us a sense of how long did you do that before you said something has to change? Was it
right.
soon, or was it years?
It was years because in the
Wow.
beginning, after I finished residency, we just had one child, and that was a struggle, but I found myself being able to bounce back easier. And so I guess you factor in I'm aging, and the longevity now, instead of 1 year, it's 2 years or 3 years, of doing this. Now my body's starting to catch up, and I'm it's seeing the effects of when you sleep only 4 or 5 hours a night for years, right? Or when you eat fast food 75% of the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it had been at least 5 years before
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
my body really started to my health started to decline.
And you
Mhm.
started seeing the signs. I say all the
Yes.
time, how you treat yourself this decade is going to mean how you feel next decade.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. That's right.
That's right.
Yes,
Yeah, so you were starting to see the signs. Now,
yes.
did your faith and your family bring a ton of support for you to push through that time?
I think I would say that my family supported in the way as much as they could with, helping take care of our kids. My parents would come up and babysit when they could if I was on call because Gerard was on call as well. My faith was what played the bigger role in believing
Okay.
that things could turn around, right?
Mhm.
And believing that like I didn't have to follow suit with
Right.
what normally would
Yeah.
happen. Like, if you're experiencing issues with inflammation or hypertension or whatever, then, it's just
Yeah.
downhill, right?
Right.
As opposed to this can get better or
Right.
your health can be
Yeah.
restored. So that's where my faith came in and played a
Yeah.
bigger part of
We
it.
don't have to live on the struggle bus forever, right?
Right. Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Now, was there one big aha moment, or did something happen that you said, I need to make a change, other than just noticing? I mean, was there kind of a big bump in the road that you said, okay,
That's
I'm
it.
Yeah,
doing something different?
right, absolutely. I think that for a long a good part of my career, I tried to do everything right. So okay, if I need to work this many hours, I'm going to do it. I'm setting my goal and I want it to be perfect. I don't want to make any mistakes. And I remember one afternoon for lunch at work where I was like, I'm tired. I don't even care no more. Like
Mhm.
that's how I felt. Like
Mhm.
I don't care. At this point, I don't think I'm good for this practice. I can't try to make it all work anymore because it's just falling to pieces. And I don't
Mhm.
even have the energy to try to do it anymore.
Mhm.
So that probably was a moment for me like, whoa,
Mhm.
like, you're not even trying to figure out
Right.
how to make it all work. It was just like, I'm
So
done.
how did you make that transition? Did you just go part-time first, or what did you what
Right. So I was on a contract and so I finished that contract out, which I was working the 4 hours and the call and all that. And it was, I know it was God because during this period, I began to meet other female physicians and would just share my experience. And most of them were like, why are you working so hard? Like, why are you doing this now? You're no longer in residency. But I
Mhm.
thought that that's just how it is, right?
Right.
You're
Yeah.
finished, you got a full-time job, and that's just what comes with it. But so that really helped to give insight. That's why I love saying share your story, share your testimony
Mhm.
because you never know who you can help.
Mm.
Um, so so then I was like, oh wow, I could still practice without like working, 4 or 5 days a week without taking call. And so
Mhm.
then in my mind, I'm like, okay, I need to do something part-time. And
Mhm.
that's when my next, job, we moved and relocated, became more part-time.
Mhm.
So that made it work better for me and
Mhm.
having the family and the kids and our schedule. That
Mhm.
helped out a lot because
Mhm.
part-time still can be demanded depending on what you're doing, but it just really helped me to still be able to, because I enjoyed practice and I enjoyed helping people, but I didn't enjoy being sick and tired and just going through the motions.
Mhm.
I love your story, and I hear it again over and over. Different folks that we get to interview on this call. I hear kind of the same theme, where they just didn't feel they were getting all the support they needed.
Mhm.
But when did you finally have this vision that you could start your own coaching? I mean,
Mhm.
that's kind of a leap, maybe.
Yeah.
And I know Rita's done it, but what kind of a leap was that for you?
That's a really good question. And I will say that interestingly, in learning or going through medical school. The model really was to obtain the knowledge and then find a job, right?
Mhm.
But when I did the IIN health coaching program, their model was you can start your own business. Like today, you can
Mm-hmm.
find someone
Okay.
who is a couple of steps behind you that needs that support.
Yeah.
And that really, helped to I spark this entrepreneurial, thought in my head, like, oh wow, I never
You
thought of that.
make your own work schedule, work as
Yes,
much as you want or as little as you want from where you want.
absolutely.
You're in
Yes,
charge. Nobody tells you what time you got to clock in or clock out or
exactly.
take call. Is the
Right,
greatest blessing.
exactly.
Hmm.
Yes. So I will credit the program for putting that seed in my mind as far as starting like my own coaching business.
Hmm.
And what made me believe that it could be beneficial is because I would share what I was doing in my own personal life and the foods that, how I was eating differently and, the changes I was making and advise others, and they started applying those things to their own lives and started seeing benefits. That's when I was like, oh my gosh, like, so it's not just me, but other
Mhm.
people can greatly benefit from this. And
Well,
so,
and with your background, oh my goodness, marriage of the two of those with your medical
Hmm.
background and then with your coaching, and
Right.
so now you've got a lot of information that
right,
folks really need.
Right.
And
right,
put
right.
that into a coaching package, and I imagine that you were seeing results rather quickly with some of your clients.
Oh
Right.
yeah, and
Yeah.
Yeah. Are
it
you
was
still working part-time?
yes, yes,
Are
yes,
you still now?
yes, yes, I
Okay,
am.
As a
here's
pediatrician, you mean, right?
Right, as a
yes.
pediatrician,
Yeah.
yes.
Do you find, and here's the question of the hour, do you find that not only are you carrying your medical practice over into your coaching, but
Mhm.
are you now carrying some of your coaching over into your medical practice?
Oh, yes. Oh my
Absolutely.
goodness.
Yes.
Yes. I tell you, and
Are
and
you?
and it's so much easier now because, for instance, I'll see a 10-year-old who comes in for a physical, their annual checkup, right? And before I had done the coaching and all of this, it was just quick checklist. Okay, you're eating fruits and vegetables, great. Are you getting milk? Great, but now that I have the coaching experience and I know the value of it, when I see red flags, I'm sitting down and say, okay, mom, we really need to, what is he eating? We need to take this out. We need to add this. We need to do this. And I want you to come back and we're going to talk about this. And it's effortless in a sense where before I used to struggle around that nutrition lifestyle component. But now it's like, oh, yeah, this is what you do. And if you're still having problems, then that my coaching services are available.
That's okay. That's where kind of lead into the question I was going to ask you because for me, I know the challenge because you have to integrate the two. You can't not
Yes,
because you know what you
right,
know and you can't not teach
exactly.
it if you know it's going to help that person. So the challenge that I'm still always trying to work with within the medical model, because I still work part-time there as well,
Mm,
is the timing. It's like, my
yes,
appointments most of the time are 20 minutes. And
Mhm.
I might
yes,
see my patients now. Luckily, I do specialize in lifestyle and obesity medicine. So that is my niche. But still, if my appointment is only 20 minutes, like once a month, like,
right,
it's like there's so much that I see
right,
that we can do, and there's just
yes,
not enough time. So then I get frustrated because to be able to stay within those boundaries, I feel like I can't give them enough of what they
Mhm.
need. So
hmm
yes, I can schedule more appointments or sometimes longer appointments and stuff, but that's where my stress comes from is like
mm,
feeling that rush, like, but I've only got 20 minutes, and I'm like,
right,
ah,
right, right.
do you feel that as well?
Oh well, yeah, and absolutely, you're exactly right. It's no way that I could spend the amount of time that I would during the coaching to go really deep, but
Yes.
I feel like I'm still able to give them a little more. And
Mm,
those who are kind of right there and can grasp that and apply it to their lives do, and those who can't now is okay, you need to see or you need to do X, Y,
right.
and Z because
Yeah.
this visit the time frame won't
Right.
allow. Yeah.
Right.
that deeper coaching. Yeah.
Well, we all have a certain degree of stress, and I'm sure a lot of your clients also do. And many working moms struggle with that whole self-care, nutrition. What is the first steps that you recommend for someone who feels overwhelmed and stuck in their unhealthy habits?
Yeah, I think if you are really feeling overwhelmed and stuck, I honestly think you need to look for help, right? Because you're overwhelmed now. Yes, you have the internet and it's so much information out there. Great information, some may not be. But if you are already feeling overwhelmed at this point, I think it would be the most beneficial for you to have someone to guide you through it, just to take that feeling of stress and that intensity away, because you're not trying to do it all alone. And so hence, if you a coach, your healthcare provider, a fitness trainer, but at that point start looking for support. And once you find that, then you can have the guidance. Like I said, even with my own story, that's really what helped me was joining the program. And in the program, there were, coaches and, other people sharing their story, sharing insight information. So I didn't feel alone. I felt that, okay, this definitely, I'm not doing it by myself. It took away that feeling of being overwhelmed and everything.
Wow. There's so much information out there on the internet to weed through that I can see where having a guide, having a coach is so beneficial. But a lot of folks, they just think, well, if I don't have time to weed through it, how am I going to have time to, to visit a coach once a week, or to get on a coaching call, or to even go to a program like that? And so what I find all the time is that folks that need it the most will tap in the least.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's always a struggle.
Yes.
Dr. Tomeka, I want to talk about your book, 21 Days to a Prosperous Mindset. Now, it suggests that mindset is the key to wellness. Tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. The first thing that I think of is, if we want to make change or bring about change in our lives, we have to first think about it, right? It has to be a thought. It has to, whatever we want to do in our life, it really starts with what we think. Even the word of God tells us, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. So it's going to start with that thought, right? Even if like, oh, I want to lose 10 pounds. It started with that thought. And then from there, you begin to come up with a plan, and then you implement that plan and you show up consistently. And then it happens. But it doesn't just happen by circumstance or by happenstance. It just doesn't happen. So really focusing on just having that right mindset. People talk about positive mindset, right? Or wealth building mindset, because that will lay the foundation for the actions that's going to lead you to the outcome that you want. So that's really what the premise of that faith-based devotional came from, the name. In 21 days, studies have shown that in 21 days of doing something, you can create a new habit. And so if you're doing this faith-based devotional daily for 21 days, you hopefully will develop a new habit, and you will be surprised how your mindset shifts. So it goes from a mindset of scarcity to abundance. You're looking at that glass half full and saying it's not half empty, it's half full. Your mindset shift, which will change like how you are flowing, what you are doing, and the outcomes that you will get. And I actually wrote, it was placed in my heart to write that book during the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, because, it was so much negativity and fear and, the unknown of this virus. And it was, people were just really stressing, and the overwhelm of like, oh my gosh, am I going to die if I go out of the house and I touch this doorknob, right? And so I was like, I really needed to just have like a simplistic devotional that had scripture and affirmations in it, just so I could like, focus my mind, so I wouldn't be driven off into all the possibilities of the
Mhm.
doom and gloom.
Mhm.
Well, if you had to pick a mindset shift that you actually did, what is the most powerful one in your own healing journey?
So for me, the most powerful one for my mindset shift was understanding and learning that things don't just happen, right? So in medicine, we learn about genetics, right, Rita?
Okay.
Your family history. Oh, who has a family history of diabetes or
Mhm.
hypertension or whatever,
Mhm.
right? And I didn't realize this until later, but in my mind, it was just like, well, like you can't change your genetics, right? Who you was born to, who you was born to, and
Yep.
that's that. And but what I learned through coaching and mindset shift is that there are things that we do that will either lead us to disease or lead us to health. And even when you look at the structure of the family, right, and you think about, oh, okay, this family has diabetes, it has hypertension or whatever, but do we really look at how they ate? Or
Yeah.
how maybe they ate like, terrible for
Mhm.
generations, right?
Mhm.
And what factor did that play into this disease showing up?
Mhm. Mhm.
And how did they live? Was there abuse? Was there alcohol abuse? And is
Mhm.
that something that is playing into this
Right.
disease manifesting in their
Yeah.
life? And so when I learned, like, oh my goodness, I can actually change like what I'm eating. So now I often say you're going to eat either to promote health in your body or to promote disease. Like,
Mhm.
which way are you eating and living to promote health or disease? So
Mhm.
when I grasped that, it really woke things up for me and saying, okay, we do play a big part.
Mhm.
It doesn't just matter, your genetics or whatever. You play a huge part in, how you're going to live today and years to come.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love how you can actually change your lineage genetics,
Hmm.
right? Through the power of the science of epigenetics, right? So
Hmm.
lifestyle loads the gun, what is
Yeah,
it? Genetics loads the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger, right? So
absolutely.
if we
Right.
change the lifestyle from what our ancestors were doing and we're all sick, then we can change the genetics of our future
Right.
offspring. And so, I mean, it's amazing. So it's
Yes.
awesome how God gives us that grace, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Dr. Tomeka, you work both with adults and children, and I know there's all kind of unique challenges. But families face trying to raise these kids more healthy. And how do you address that when you're coaching them? Because my guess is that there's some resistance there. I don't know about you, but I see tons of families that the kids are in all these sports and
Hmm.
they're racing from one thing to another, and they've got more than one kid in more than one sport. And so all of a sudden, fast food is just their way of life if they're going to eat it all. And how in the world can you coach them to
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
convince them that this needs to change?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good question as well. And I think so years ago when practicing, right, and talking to kids and parents about like a child's health, maybe their weight, it was all of, okay, mom, make sure they're not eating too many snacks or they're not drinking too much juice or they're not eating too much of this and make sure they're getting out and exercising, which is appropriate. That's true. But what I found through my coaching is that if you can get mom to change those things for the whole
Mm-hmm.
family, then
Yeah.
everybody is on board
Yes.
because mom is typically the one that's buying the food, that's preparing it,
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
that is making sure they're getting it. Even if the kid doesn't want it, they can most
Mm-hmm.
times go out and purchase these things to
Mm-hmm.
have, right? But the mother can. So if you
Mm-hmm.
can get mom to change things, to prepare healthy snacks, right? To
Mm-hmm.
maybe do some crock pot meals, to make sure that the kids are drinking more water than juice. then the kids will follow. And I've seen
That's
it
right.
over and over through coaching women. And it's
Yep.
amazing. The kids like,
Yep.
I didn't know I would like that smoothie, but mom, can I try it? Because the mama
Mhm.
is doing it.
That's right. That's
Even
right.
with the spouses, right?
Mhm.
Same thing. If the mom is doing it,
That's
she's
right.
able to help Urshan and like the entire family.
Yep. You leading by example. I know in
Yes.
my clinic too, my staff will contact me and we have an 8-year like a 12-year-old obese child. Would you see them? And I'm like, no, I will not. But I will see their parents, you
Right,
know.
right. That's right. Yeah.
So, because
And
pediatrics is never it's never been my thing. I've never done
Right.
pediatrics before either, but I do strongly feel that, the grown-ups are the ones who are
Oh
in
yeah.
charge. They have the money, they go to
Mhm.
do the shopping, they buy the groceries, they're in charge. So if they got it down, then the kids are going to be fine.
Yeah. That's
So,
it. That's
yep,
exactly it.
yep. And
wow,
yeah, go
I
ahead.
love that. I hadn't thought of that before, but you are absolutely correct. Yeah, if you get mom on board, it kind of gets the whole family on board. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's great advice
Yeah.
there. Dr. Tomeka, as a wife, a mother of three, a doctor, a coach, and an entrepreneur, that's a lot of hats,
Hmm.
personally find balance, and what routines or rituals keep you grounded?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I will definitely say that yes, those are multiple hats, right? But not all of the hats are on at the same time, so to speak, right? There are times when I'm spending more time with coaching or more times when I'm spending more time, not when I was writing the book. Always a wife and mom though, but one thing I have found is really finding at least 15 minutes for
Mm-hmm.
yourself a day. And I like to start my day like that. Just, I say 15 minutes, just, allow yourself to, for me, I like to meditate on scripture. I like to pray, sometimes, adding, maybe drinking some warm tea, also I haven't started doing this, but this is one of my goals I'm working on, is like exercising for at least 10 minutes at the start of my day. But
Mm-hmm.
nevertheless, like finding at least 15 minutes daily for myself helps to keep me grounded. And often if you start at the beginning of the day, it doesn't matter what falls apart the rest of the day. You've already invested that time in yourself. So that
Yeah.
really is something simple. And it's a journey. So it's not perfect. And that's another
Yeah.
thing I've learned, right? This season of your life may be hectic because of family issues or whatever, but
Hmm.
finding one thing to do so you're just not like unraveling really is beneficial.
Yeah. And Kathy, wouldn't you agree that us menopausal mamas, I need way more than 15 minutes for me. That
At
is not
least,
a
Rita,
no.
at least.
Oh, okay, okay. All right. Yeah, because all like you said, that
Yeah.
that train that you're always running on, and
Hmm.
you get used to it, and then all of a sudden, like, you hit a different stage of life, and it's
Yeah.
like, whoa, you can't handle that pace anymore.
Yes.
You got
Yes.
all kinds of
Yes.
hormonal changes happening, and
Yes.
I need so much more rest, so much more
Yes.
self-care. So
Hmm.
yeah, if you're not there yet, ladies, start to think about your life changes going on, and life
Yeah.
change schedule changes to make your day easier or shorter work
Hmm.
days, so you have that time for yourself, because those changes are coming, and
Yeah.
then you're just like, I don't know, it's like, but I
Yeah.
have this job I have to do, and some people
Right.
are not only caring for their kids, but they're
Yeah.
aging parents,
Yes.
and,
Yes.
Yes.
it's so much. Yeah.
Well, and I
Yes.
find there was a certain actual point that I had to give myself permission that it was okay to
Yeah.
Yes.
keep up that pace. I ran,
Mhm.
Rita knows this, I ran 5 salons for 25 years,
Oh,
and
wow.
they were full of staff and over 200 women a week in each building. And so it was busy, crazy busy. And so I got used to that. That
Hmm.
became my way of life. And so when I did retire, I had to give myself permission that it's okay
Yeah.
to
Hmm.
run like that.
Mhm.
Yes. Hmm.
I had to have a little talk with myself.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
At
Yes.
least you listened. That's good.
Well,
Yeah.
it took me a minute, Rita.
Yeah.
It
Oh,
took me a
yeah.
minute.
Yeah. It doesn't happen quick
It didn't happen
oftentimes.
overnight because
Right.
I felt guilty that I wasn't doing something.
Right. Yes.
And I'm like, where is that coming from? But
Yeah.
yeah, I
Yes.
felt guilty. And I think some women are like that. They're so
Yes.
Yeah.
used to handling everything that if they do find a minute of time in their day, they're looking around going, I should be doing something. What should I be doing?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I teach
Yeah.
my client. I teach my clients all the time, which what helped me. Self-care is not selfish. You know,
Right.
it's a necessity. It's
Yes.
it's non-negotiable. Yeah. So, but
Exactly.
you have a podcast now too. So
Yes,
Yes.
that's
tell
what I
us
wanted to
about that.
talk
Why did
about.
on top of all this, why did you want to start a podcast
You
now?
know, that is so that yeah. So, I don't know if you ladies have done it, but thinking back to saying, okay, what are your natural gifts, right? What are the
Mm,
things that when you were maybe 7, 8, 10, 12, whatever, people say, oh, you're so good at, or you naturally do that. And I was doing that exercise with my husband, and I was like, I remember my parents said I used to always get in trouble for talking all the time. And I was like, which I love, I enjoy talking. I enjoy having conversations with people and,
mhm.
just learning, just talking about their stories and different things like that. And my husband was like, you just need to start a podcast. Like since you love
Mhm.
this so much, right?
Mhm.
And I was like, what? Okay, what would I do? But the premise of the podcast, the Wholeness Walk, that's the title of it. It is really about conversations around wholeness. And one thing that I know now is that just focusing on, eating 100% of like the right foods or
Mhm.
exercising, 3-4 hours a day, like that doesn't lead you necessarily to a wholeness
Right.
walk, because we're made up, we have our mind, a spirit, our body. And
Mhm.
if our spirit is lacking, that will affect our physical,
That's right.
body. If our
Yep.
mind is stressed and depressed, that is going to affect
Mhm.
our physical body and how we eat and how we live. And
Mhm.
so in that podcast, we talk about these different things and how it can definitely come together to give you that balance, that
Mm.
peace, that sense of healing and health and being in purpose in God. That's the
Mhm.
premise of the podcast.
Mm.
And hearing others'
Mhm.
testimonies,
Yeah.
so, hearing how you overcame something, because like I said, that helped me in
Mhm.
my pediatric career, just hearing
Right.
other pediatricians share like, whoa, I don't work like that anymore.
Right.
Just a simple sharing,
Mhm.
Right. Right.
some of your story can really help change someone's life.
I
So,
love that. I love that because, in medicine, we know that we have to be completely healed. We have to be healthy in mind, body, and spirit. And
mhm,
in medicine, we only focus on the physical body. It's like the
right.
spirit and the emotions and
Yes,
the mindset doesn't even exist, right? And it's like
exactly.
you can't help
Yes.
somebody heal without the rest.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
our medical model doesn't even really allow for that. Yes, now we have more integrative therapies and stuff like
Right.
that. So we're improving, but I think
Right.
there's still a lot to be desired. So I
Yes.
could see that's right, and it's not as fulfilling for us as
Right.
clinicians when we're
Mhm.
not helping people heal on a wholeness level. So I love that you have more time to talk to people and
Yes.
help and make better referrals too for other professionals that they may need.
Right.
So I love that. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank
Hmm.
you.
How often are you, have you launched it already? Let me ask you that first. Is it already launched?
Yes, it's
And how,
already launched. It was launched February of this year,
okay,
and
okay,
so weekly episodes. Yep, every
okay,
Monday is a new episode. Yes.
okay.
That's great.
So I'm taking that you pre-recorded and then you just launch
Yes,
the episode every Monday.
absolutely.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Well,
Yes.
Hmm.
good to know. So, what do you hope that people remember most about Dr. Tomeka, and how can all of our listeners connect with you?
Yeah, that's a great question. But thinking about that, I also will share a story. When I was in undergrad, I did a summer program at UNC Chapel Hill, and it was students that wanted to pursue medicine. So the science enrichment program. And at the end of the program, we all gave superlatives for each other. And my superlative was most likely to pray before patients before and after surgery. So but so I said, oh my goodness, yeah. And so that is something that, like, even before I got into medicine, was an important part of my life and that I carry throughout. So answering that question, I would like for people to know that there is an integrative way of living, right?
Yes.
You don't have to just take pills or or do surgeries. Yes, they have their place. Or you don't have to be on the other end where it's like, no, I don't go to doctors, and no, I don't, and I only do herbs. Like, there is an integrative way,
Yeah.
in which to have health,
Yes.
so science is not all bad, right?
Yes.
And some of the stories and naturalists, that's not all bad either. But we definitely integrate in, and what God's word tells us, that helps us too. So
That's
not being
right.
devoid of those things to have health.
Absolutely. Yeah. I've seen that so many times too with patients and doctors who will pray, like if you have a Christian patient and they're going into the operating room and their surgeon is a Christian and they pray
Mhm,
together in the
mhm.
pre-op, and it just sets the whole tone. I mean,
Yes,
their entire operative experience is completely different. The amount of
yes,
anesthesia that they need, because if you think
mhm,
of somebody who's going into the operating room with
yes,
all the fear that a person can muster
yes,
up and how that affects every cell of your body,
yes,
versus somebody who goes in with complete peace and comfort and knows
yes.
that they're in good hands, it
Mm-hmm.
changes everything.
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 Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, I love
Yes.
that.
I have
Thank
never thought
you.
of that, Rita. My
Oh,
goodness.
yeah. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does. So important. So how can
Mhm.
people get a hold of you, Doc? So your podcast is called Wellness Walk, right?
The wholeness
Oh,
walk.
sorry,
The wholeness
the
walk.
Wholeness Walk,
Right.
and then your
And it's
website.
on Spotify and Apple, the bigger, podcasts, but it's also on other podcasting platforms. But
Mhm.
my website is Flourish, FLOURISH, Health Coaching LLC.com. And my email is flourishhealthcoachingllc@gmail.com. And I'm also on Facebook, as well as Instagram and TikTok. And on TikTok, I'm
Mhm.
Dr. Tomeka Inspires. So those are
Mhm.
the ways that you can get in contact with me.
Which is the one that I saw, This MD Praise? Is that Instagram?
That's Instagram.
Instagram,
Yes.
that's her name, This
Yes.
MD Praise. I love
Yeah,
it.
so I actually have Flourish Health Coaching LLC on Instagram, this MD Praise on Instagram, and Dr. Tomeka on Instagram. So
Awesome. Wonderful.
yeah,
Well, thank you so much for being here with you. This was really great. And Kathy,
thank
you want to tell
you.
her about our speakers cabinet?
Yes, as a free gift to help promote you, which is our goal, is that we're going to include you in our speakers cabinet, and you will get that link here in the next couple of days. And,
Oh, awesome.
and so, as folks are looking for guests on podcast or speakers, even in your local area, it'll be the link directly back to your website. So we don't actually get anything out of it. Other than we have this amazing list of guests that we can tap into all the time. That's what we get out of it. Um,
Oh, wonderful.
so
Thank
there,
you.
again, we're not getting any monetary value out of it, but we do have this amazing list of speakers now. But what you get out of it is it's a way for folks to find you if they're looking for a guest and they need a guest for their podcast or their, even if they're having an in-person event and they need somebody to speak, you may get a contact there.
Awesome. Thank you, ladies, so much. I
Thank
appreciate
you for
that.
being here. We're so
Yeah.
glad that you could be with us. Been great.
Thank you. Thank you.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. We're going to stop recording.